Han Zheng's illegitimate son is Peng Zhao. Now, Peng Zhao is a very interesting character, and he's deeply involved in a lot of rather suspicious companies, I would say. At least it's my opinion that they're suspicious. Group 42 Holdings, or also known as G42 Holdings, he is very involved there. He's also involved in BGI Genomics, which calls into question his connection with the next company, Sinovac Vaccines. Now, if he's connected to BGI Genomics that does gene sequencing on DNA, and then he turns around and he's deeply involved in Sinovac vaccines, could it be that the digging that Miles has suggested we do, we start looking at the connections between these companies, whether or not information is passing back and forth to show gene sequences that may be vulnerable, and maybe, just maybe, hypothetically of course, that the Sinovac vaccines that are getting manufactured are potentially targeting those vulnerable gene sequences. It makes you wonder. We know that just a few years ago, it was either 2023, I believe it was, 23andMe had a huge data breach. Now, when 23andMe has a huge data breach, that is a really big deal. 23andMe, of course, is one of the big gene sequencing companies here in America. If you want to know where your ancestors came from, you send your cheek swab sample into 23andMe and they run the DNA samples on it. All of those DNA sequencing samples are retained. Why? Because now they've got your data. Here's the sick thing about it all. We've been doing this and we've been paying them, whether it be $100 or whatever it is, paying them in order to give them our information about our most prized possession, our health. They basically know it all. If you send in a cheek swab, they know everything about you. They are able to sequence your DNA all the way down and know where your vulnerabilities are, everything about you. And that data breach, if that data went where I think it went, that would have given the Chinese Communist Party, because we know that every company, and we've said this before, every Chinese company is ultimately owned and operated by the CCP. Every one of these companies, if they were the ones that became the benefactor of that stolen data, then they would have the weaknesses of those in America, and they would be able to sequence vaccines to target certain sectors of the population.